Hi students, welcome to this online class. Today we are going to see about class 7 science chapter 3. The name of the lesson is Fiber to Fabric. What are the basic requirements of life? Just think, you could pause the video here and just think of it. What are all things we need to live? Yes, your guess is mostly correct. We need food, cloth, and shelter to live a life. So these are the three basic requirements. In the previous two lessons, we have seen about the food. How do the food being prepared in plants? How do the food being digested in humans? And all things we have seen about the food. And in this lesson, we are going to see about cloth. How do cloths made of? How does it made? And how many types are there? These are things we are going to see about detailing in this lesson. Just think, we have seen different types of cloth in our everyday life. Like cotton clothes are there, synthetic cloths are there, woolen cloth, silk, and more than that. So we use different types of cloth in every day. How do cloths made of? The fabric which is used to prepare a dress, the cloth that is known as the fabric. This fabric is made up of yarn, and the yarn is made up of the fiber. So recall that the dress, it is a stitched one. The cloth, which means a fabric, it is made up of yarn. By adding by combining more yarns, we get a fabric. This yarn is made up of fibers. By combining more fibers, we get yarn. So fiber is the basic one to prepare the fabric. Fiber is the very basic thing to prepare a fabric. So is there any types of fibers? Is there any more types of fibers? Where do fibers come from? Where do fibers come from? Generally, we can classify the fibers into two types. One is natural fiber and synthetic fiber, which means fibers may obtain naturally, or else we can prepare it in any lab. So fibers can be broadly classified into two. One is natural fibers and synthetic fibers. In the previous year, in the class 6, you all may seen about the natural fibers, the fibers that have been prepared from plants. So what's natural fiber? Fibers that come from plants and animals. An example are found in nature are called natural fibers. For example, we get jute and cotton from plants. This one you have seen in the previous year. The cotton fiber and the jute fiber that you have seen in the previous year. Wool is acquired from the fleece of a goat or sheep. It can also be acquired from the hair of yak, rabbits and camels. Silk fiber can be procured from the cocoons of silkworm. So in the previous year, you have seen about the plant fibers, the fibers which are obtained from the plants. And in this year, in the class 7, you are going to see about the fibers which are obtained from the animals, like wool and silk. In the upcoming class, in the grade 8, you will study about the synthetic fibers. So the fiber lesson is an important lesson because you are going to study in this 3 years. Already you have studied, in this year you have studied, and the next year also you will be studying. So just be careful. So remember that generally fibers are obtained from two different sources. One is natural fiber and synthetic fiber. In class 6 and 7, you are studying about the natural fibers, which means the fibers obtained from plants and animals. And in the next class, in the grade 8, you will study about the synthetic fiber. Clear? Yes, let's start the first fiber which is obtained from the animals. The production of wool. The wool is obtained mainly from animals like sheep, yak and goat. Wool is acquired from the fleece or hair of this animal. The wool which we are used to prepare the sweaters and bed sheets, it all the hair of the animal. The hair is a colloquial word, so we can use the word fleece. Wool is acquired from the fleece or hair of these animals. See, in the picture we have mentioned some animals. From these animals only we are get the wool. Alpaca, sheep, goat, camel, yak. And alpaca is an animal which is mainly live in the South America. Production of wool from sheep. In this lesson we will see about how do we get wool from the animal and how we convert into our use, because it's a simple hair of the animal. How we are getting the hair from that animal and how we are converting into our usable one. There are two types of fibers in the sheep hair. One is the rough beard hair and the soft under hair which is present just near to the skin of the sheep. Just think which type of hair you prefer to use, if it is a rough one or a soft one. Yes, of course we prefer to use a soft one which is make comfortable to use. Wool is made from the soft hair of the sheep because of its fine quality. So is it possible to obtain all the hair as very smooth one? No, it's quite difficult. That is why we select some sheep which yields good soft skin, soft hair. So by breeding it selectively is known as selective breeding. Sometimes sheep are selected to gain a breed that has only fine soft hair on the skin and less or no hard hair. This process is called selective breeding. Sheep are reared all over India in order to acquire wool from them, such as in Jammu and Kashmir, Rajasthan, Arunachal Pradesh and Gujarat. The sheep are generally fed with grass common leaves called pulses, oil cakes and dry fodder. The process of obtaining wool from the hair fiber of the animals. First, shearing. It is a process of removing the fleece of the sheep along with a thin layer of its skin. Shearing is conducted generally in hot weather so that the sheep do not feel cold and can survive easily. The word shearing is quite similar to the shaving. Your father may do often it, like removing of a hair cutting will do. No, it's similar like a hair cutting for sheep. They remove the hair from its body and they will do it generally in the summer season. The shearing process does not hurt the sheep because the upper part of the skin is normally dead skin. Yes, whenever we do haircut, is it painful to us? No. So first process is removing the hair from the sheep's body. Next, scouring. It is a process of removing dirt, grease and dust from the hair removed from the sheep, because generally sheep will move, it may grass at different places, so some dirt may stick on it, so we have to clean that. The cleaning process is known as scouring. It is generally done with the help of machines. And third one, sorting. It is the process of separating the hair of the sheep according to the texture. Yes, that's the main important one, because the length, breadth and thickness of the sheep will be not as common on the whole body. It will be vary. So based on their textures, their length and their thickness and their soft quality, based on it we are make it separate. This is the third process, sorting. So first we have to remove the hair After removing the fleece, we have to clean it. After cleaning it, we have to separate it based on their quality. The quality and as well as the texture. Next, removing of burrs. In this step, the burrs or small fibers present on the hair are picked out. Then the hair is cleaned and dried out. The product so obtained is the wool that can now be converted into fibers. So fourth process is removing of burrs. The burrs is small like cotton. It's just a very small fibers. It may disturb while converting into yarn. That is why we have to remove it. That is known as removing of burrs. Next, coloring of wool fibers. In the steps, the fibers are dyed in different colors because generally sheep may have a same color, either white or mostly it will be in white, and we prefer to use different colors of bedsheet, so they will make a dye on it. Rolling of wool. In the last step, the fibers for wool so obtained is straightened out, combed and then rolled into yarn. So what we have done, can you remember? First we have removed the hair. First we have removed the hair from the sheep. Next we have cleaned it. First shearing, next scouring. We have cleaned the fleece, next sorting. We have separated based on their textures. Next, removing of burrs. We have removed the small fibers, and then we have color. We added the coloring of wool fibers, and last rolling. We have to convert it to we have rolled it. Yes, it's a simple picture that shows a complete process. You could pause the video and take a screenshot of this one. You could enlarge it later and see it clearly. Yes, I hope you have been taken. Next, occupational hazard. Yes, it's an basic and important that we have to know. While you are doing all these things, there is a chance to be affected by different disease, because sometimes we cannot predict that every sheep will be very healthy one, and we also be healthy in all the time. There is a chance to be affected while doing this work. In some industries, the workers have to face a risk of getting diseases and sometimes death. These are called occupational hazards. Sorter's disease is an occupational hazard associated with the production of wool. Just take notes of this word. Sorter's disease. It is an occupational hazard associated with the production of wool. The people who sort the wool can get infected by bacteria called anthrax. Bacteria called anthrax can be affected by the sheep and as well as the human. Either human or sheep affected by this bacteria. This bacterium infects the blood of the person, which can lead to fatal death. Next, the production of silk. This is the second fiber that we need to know about it. We are going to see about it. Silk is obtained from silkworms. Sericulture is the breeding and raising of silkworms in order to obtain silk from them. Yes, some people doing it as their work. They just breed the silkworms and obtain the silk from the silkworm, and they will sell it. And they are doing this as their work. And this work is known as sericulture. Breeding and raising of silkworms in order to obtain silk from them is known as sericulture. Next, let's see how do this silkworm will grow and how do we get silk from them and how do we convert it into yarns. Let's see detail about it. When the eggs of the silk moth hatch larvae are produced called caterpillar or silkworms. The next stage of the caterpillar life is called pupa. To enter into this stage, the caterpillar weaves a net that can hold it. So from the egg, a small larva produced is known as caterpillar or silkworm. This is the initial stage. From the egg, a larva will come out. The larva is known as caterpillar or silkworm. The next stage is it has to be enter pupa. To enter into this stage, it will build a net to hold itself. The caterpillar then swings its head in the shape of an 8. As it swings its head, the fiber is secreted. After preparing the net, it just swings its head. While swinging its head, from the neck region, a fiber is being secreted. This fiber is made up of protein, and as it comes in contact with the air, it hardens and forms the silk fiber. The protein, a fiber secreted while it's swinging a head, this is the silk fiber. While preparing it like a simple liquid one, we have seen the gum. If we keep a gum and open for sometimes, what would happen? It been dried and become hardened. No, the same one occurs here. While the silkworm swings its head, it secretes the fiber from its neck region, and this fiber is being hardened will come in contact with the air, and this is the silk fiber. The caterpillar then covers itself into silk and turns it into pupa. The covering of the caterpillar is called the cocoon. The covering of the caterpillar is called the cocoon. Then the caterpillar turns into a silk moth inside this covering. The silk thread on the silk yarn is obtained from the cocoon. It builds a net now. In the net only covered with the fiber, and this is the covering is known as cocoon. We get silk fiber from the cocoons only. Different types of silk are obtained because of the different types of silk moths. There are variety of silk because of the variety of silk moths. The mulberry silk moth is the most common kind of silk moth that produces soft, elastic and shining silk. The mulberry silk is a common one around the various silk products. You see here, these are the various stages of a life cycle of silk moth. A adult moth lay hundreds of eggs on the mulberry leaves. From that leaves, a larva will come out. Larva, caterpillar or silkworm, everything is same. And the caterpillar then moves into the next stage of pupa. While moving into the pupa, it has to build a net to hold it, and in the net, while building its net, it swings its head and produces a fiber, and this fiber will be hardened when it comes in the contact of air, and this covering is known as the cocoon. From the cocoon only we are obtaining the silk fiber. How do we get the silk fiber from the cocoon? Let's see that. The process of obtaining silk from the silkworms. First, rearing. The silkworm farmers buy the eggs of silk moth and raise them. Initially they have to buy the eggs and make it to grow. These eggs are generally large in numbers, as a single silk moth can lay about 100 eggs at a time. These eggs are stored in an environment having an appropriate temperature, humidity and hygienic conditions. In order to hatch the larvae out of the eggs are heated. They are then kept in a bamboo tray. This process is conducted generally when the fresh leaves appear on the mulberry trees, so that the caterpillar can get enough feed. Then the caterpillar feeds around 25 to 30 days and then moves into a chamber in the tray to build a cocoon. So initially, if you want to do sericulture, means you have to buy the silk moth eggs from the shop and you have to keep it in a good environment condition, you have to make it enough temperature, and to hatch the larvae from the egg you have to heat. Remember that you have to heat in the particular temperature. While you are buying the eggs, you can ask the shop owner, they will say some suggestions. You should not boil it. There's a difference between heating and boiling. You have to make it heat, you should not boil it. Once you heat it, a larvae will come out and you have to feed the food for it. So generally the larvae may consume more and more on leaves. So before it comes out, you have to be ready with the food. So mulberry trees you should be plant initially, because the mulberry tree is a good food for the silkworms. So you have to feed enough mulberry leaves. After it, you have to change it into a bamboo tray to feed it. After that, you have to place it into a good chamber of tray to build the cocoon, because from the cocoon only we obtain the silk. Once the cocoon has been ready, once the cocoon has formed and we are ready to get silk, means what we have to do? Firstly, as the cocoons are acquired, they are kept under the sun or boiled so that the silk fibers can separate out from them. Once the cocoon are ready, we can heat it. So directly we can heat it in the sunlight. If it is not enough heat, means we can boil it. While we boiling it, we may obtain the silk fibers. Then the reeling of the silk takes place. It is a process in which the cocoon threads are processed to be used as silk. Once we get the fibers into threads, then we can do the reeling, which means it's a process to use as a silk. The silk fibers thus obtained are drawn and rolled into threads. Yes, see here. So first you have to be grown a mulberry tree. Once it is ready to start to leave, then we can buy the eggs. The female silk moth lay eggs. From that, larva will come out. This larva will prepare a net, and this net is covered by the fibers, which is known as the cocoon. After the cocoon has been ready, we can take silk from it. So what you have learned in this lesson? Let's recall once. The lesson name is Fiber to Fabric, and we have seen that classification of fibers, natural fibers and synthetic fibers. In the natural fibers, we have started to see about the animal fibers. First one is wool and then silk. In the wool, it's obtained from the fleece of sheep, goat, yak. And what are the process? Various steps it takes place: shearing, scouring, sorting, picking burrs, dyeing, weaving and knitting of yarns. While doing all this works, there is a chance of occupational hazard, anthrax caused by Bacillus anthracis, also called sorter disease. The silk fiber is obtained from silkworms. There are various types of silk like muga silk, mulberry, airy silk, tussar, oak tussar. Like this, there is a variety of types are there. And we have seen about the life cycle of silkworm. From the egg, caterpillar comes out, the caterpillar turns into cocoon. After build the cocoon, it turns to pupa. From the pupa only adult silk moth will come out. After we get the cocoon, we do two processes. First we have to boil it. We need to boil it. After that we have to reel it. While doing this work, there is also some occupational hazards like asthma, respiratory diseases, burning of skin, blisters and open injuries. These are some occupational hazards may have while doing the sericulture. Thank you all. We'll meet you in the next class, ma. Thank you all.